Hi everybody, welcome to Eureka Math Module 4, Lesson 11. Today's lesson is very much like yesterday's Lesson 10, and the objective is actually the same. Use the addition of adjacent angle measures to solve problems using a symbol for the unknown angle measure. Again, adjacent angles are angles that are next to each other. So let's start with our big idea. It's the same as yesterday. We can find the measure of a missing angle when we know at least one of the parts of the whole. So we're going to use the whole angle measure to find a part. Our angles yesterday that we used right angles and straight angles as our wholes. This time we're going to use different wholes. So take a look at these angles. There's missing angles X on the left side, and then we have missing angles X, Y, Z on the right. Let's start looking for those missing angles. So here's the first one. How can we find X? We have two parts and that we know. We know 90 degrees. We have a right angle there. We have a 120 degree obtuse angle next to it, and then we have a missing obtuse angle as well. So how can we find X? What is the whole? So first we need to know the measure of the whole angle. Think about that. How many degrees is the whole or the total? Well, here's a clue. All the angles surround a point. Here's another clue. Take a look at that. That circle. How many degrees make up a circle? Our whole angle is 360 degrees. So if we have angles that are surrounding a point, we know that it is the total will be 360 degrees. So knowing our whole, knowing that the whole angle is 360 degrees, what equation can we use to find X degrees? Think about that and see if this is what you thought of. Did you think that 120 degrees plus 90 degrees plus X degrees equals 360 degrees? Well, then you would be right. So let's solve for that X. I think we have enough information now. So let's add up 120 and 90 to get 210 degrees. So now we have 210 degrees plus X degrees equals 360 degrees. Now we can go ahead and subtract 360 degrees minus 210 degrees equals 150 degrees. So now we know that missing angle measure is 150 degrees. We're going to see more of these on the homework, but let's get to our second example in our slideshow. Here are two intersecting lines. We have two straight angles, so we know that each of those are 180 degrees. We have one blue straight angle and one red straight angle. We only know one of the angle measures. We need to find the other unknown angle measure. So where do we start? How do we find the missing angle measures? Think. Let's look at it this way. Let's look at the red straight angle first. So we're going to concentrate on that red straight angle. And by doing that, I think we can figure out angle X. So we're going to look for X first, and let's think of it this way. If we were in school, I would have you take a piece of paper and cover that up so that now we can just see that red straight angle, and we can figure out what X is because we know that straight angle is 180 degrees. We know that 20 degrees plus X equals 180 degrees. And then we can use subtraction to find X. 180 minus 20 equals 160 degrees. So we know that X is 160 degrees because the red straight angle is 180. Now let's look at the blue line and solve for Y. We know one of the angles is 20, one is 60. And now let's look for Y. Now we're going to focus on the blue line as a straight angle. We're going to not ignore the red line, but really focus on that blue line. So we know 160 plus Y equals 180 degrees. And then we can use subtraction to find Y. 180 degrees minus 160 degrees equals y. So y equals 20 degrees. I see something interesting. I see that y and our first angle that we knew the measure of are both 20 degrees. Now let's go and figure out z. Now let's look at that red line again. How can we determine angle z? It's our last unknown. We know that the red straight angle is 180 degrees. So we can go ahead and just subtract 180 degrees minus 20 degrees to get 160 degrees. So again, our other angle is 160 degrees. Those are some interesting numbers. Do you see anything that you notice about them? There's a couple of things I do want you to notice. So let's take a look. Notice that these angles also surround a point. Remember, angles that surround a point should all add up to 360. So let's make sure, first of all, that all of these angle measures add up to 360. So we have 160 degrees plus 20 degrees plus 160 degrees plus 20 degrees. And let's add up our 160 and 20s to get 180 degrees plus 180 degrees, because those are the measures of our straight angles. And sure enough, they add up to 360 degrees. So all of our angles that surround a point should always add up to 360 degrees. There is another thing I want you to know. What else do we notice? Earlier I mentioned that we have doubles, 160 degrees, 160 degrees, 20 degrees, 20 degrees. Well, that's actually something that always happens when we have intersecting lines. When you have intersecting lines, the angles across from each other are the same. And we're not going to go too in depth with this, but if you want to investigate and draw some intersecting lines on your own and then measure those angles, you should find that the angles across from each other are the same. We will see this in the homework, but it's not the big idea of our lesson, but it's something that I thought interesting, and it's something that you will find in geometry. So let's get to our problem set. Please take out your problem set. I'm going to move over to my problem set and do a few examples with you. Let's do that. Okay, so for problem set 11, our number one the instructions are write an equation and solve for the unknown angle measurements numerically. So we're going to write equations and find the numbers. So we know that angles that surround a point are always 360 degrees. And here they've shown us that circle. So we know this angle is 20 degrees. What is the other one? If you can imagine a whole pie, say, how much of that pie is left after this person took out 20 degrees of that pie? So it is, we know that angle D plus 20 equals 360 degrees. And then we can go ahead and do the 360 degrees, use our subtraction to find the rest of, if you want to think of it as a pie, the rest of the pie that was left. So the rest of the pie that was left was 340 degrees. Oops. We already had a degree sign for me. All right. For number 2, I'm going to let you go on your own. We know that this is going to be 90 degrees. So you can go ahead and write C plus 90. I'll let you go ahead and do that on your own. For 3 and 4, these are very much like the angles, the problems that we solved in the beginning. We see that we know 2 of the angles in each of them. We have a right angle right here. And yesterday I used yellow, so I'm still going to, so we have a right angle right there. We have a right angle right here. I'm going to go ahead with those. And I'm just going to set them up for you, and you can solve them, or help you set them up, I should say. They all surround a point. So they all should equal 360 together. We know 74 degrees is here. We know this one is 90. And then this is E, of course. We're looking for E. So go ahead and figure that out and find E, and you can check your work later. For number 4, same idea. We know that all the angles that surround a point will equal 360 degrees. I hope you guys can see that. And then we know that this is 60 here. So we're going to write the ones we know. We know this is 90 because it's a right angle. And then that one is our unknown. So you're going to find out what that unknown is. I will leave you there on that page. We're going to do a couple of examples on the following page. So here is number 5. Write an equation and solve for the unknown angles numerically. Let's see, O is the intersection of A, B, and C, D. So here we have our intersecting lines. And what are we going to, how are we going to find the other lines? The other angles. So we have the intersection of AB, the intersection of CD, the lines. We have an angle DOA, that is 160 degrees. We have angle AOC, that is 20 degrees. Now, we should know that intersecting lines have angle measures that are the same across, but let's prove it. Let's show our evidence for that. So we know that, I'm just getting my reference page. We know that, I'm going to use my pink. This is a straight angle right here. So we know that 20 plus 60 is 180. Now, if we were going to take, I'm going to use a different color to show this straight angle. We have another straight angle here. I'm going to color that in green. So we know that 160 and y should equal 180. So 160 plus y equals 180. We could also look at it this way. Plus 20. So we know that y equals 20. And again, this shows that when we have intersecting lines, the angles across from each other should be the same. Now, 160 here. Let's show that x is actually 160. We know that because they're across from each other. So let's just write our equation. 20 degrees plus x equals 180. 180 minus 20 equals 160 degrees. So x is also 160 degrees. All right. Now, let's just go ahead and quickly do the rest. I may not solve the whole thing with you, but I might help you set up. Let's do 6. O is the intersection of R, S, and T, V. T, O, S is 125 degrees. We need to find G, H, and I. So let's use some different colors here. Let's figure out I first. So we know that this blue line is 180. So I'm going to just go ahead and skip to 180 minus 125 equals I degrees. So we're looking for I degrees. So 180 minus 125 so I equals 55 degrees. Here's 55 degrees. Now, because these are intersecting lines, I expect G to be 55 also. So let's figure out G. I'm going to use this color. I'll use my yellow this time to highlight. We're looking for G. G is, so 180, so here it is, minus, 180 minus 125 degrees equals G. Let's do that right here. 180 minus 125. It looks like I'm doing the same problem, isn't it? I am. 55. Again, we can show that the angles formed when we intersect lines will be the same when they are across from each other. So by knowing that, I know the other angle is 125. Okay, I could prove that also by doing another equation, 180 minus 55. So 180 minus 55 would be 125. So we have proved it once again. So here's our evidence that when lines intersect, the angles across from each other will be the same. All right. One last one. We have not done one like this. This is not something we did in the slideshow. So let's read this carefully. O is the intersection of WX, YZ, and UO. Angle XOZ is 36. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 angles that surround a point. So remember, the whole angle equals 360 degrees. So it's going to be 360 degrees. We know this angle is 36. We know this angle is a right angle, so it's 90. So what can we figure out? There's a few ways we can go about this. We can figure out, I think I'm going to figure out this one first. YZ. So line YZ is 180 degrees. So I'm going to subtract 36. So 180 degrees minus 36. So I'm looking for N equals N degrees. So here we go. 180 degrees minus 36 degrees is 44 degrees. So 44 degrees equals N. So we know this is 44 degrees, and I'm going to write it up here, 44 degrees. Let's figure out, now that we know that, here's our straight angle here. We can figure out, so we know N is 44, we know K plus 44 should equal 180 because they are on this straight angle. 180 minus 44 equals K. I'm going to make a line here. So 180 minus 44 and oops. Wait a second, I did something wrong. Oops, 144. My goodness, I just realized this should have been 144. You guys, if we were in class, you would have caught me because it is obtuse. And all this time, 144. And then it would be 36. 36. So I apologize for my mistake. I'm glad I caught it before the end. And I know you're probably raising your hand saying, wait a second, Miss Levitt, you made a mistake. Well, I caught it. I must have heard you. Anyway, so we have K. Now we know that this is 36 degrees. And the only thing we need to figure out is M. So let's do that here. So we're going to use the green line again to find our angles up here. I can make an equation that says 90 degrees plus 36 degrees plus m degrees equals 180 degrees. I'm going to add these together. Let's do it up here. 90 plus 36 is 126. So 126 degrees plus m equals 180 degrees. I'll use my subtraction. 180 degrees minus 126 degrees is 44 degrees. So this time it's 44 degrees. There we go. And no, that's not right. And we have finished. That was a lot of work right there. I made a mistake here. Where did I make my mistake? 6, that's 12, 180. Oh. Here are the answers for number 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and I'm actually checking my work along with it. And there is 7.